Hello, I'm Sharon Armstrong, Vice President of the Alberta Teachers Association. Recently, the ATA invited candidates for leadership of the Alberta Liberal Party to our summer conference to meet teachers and discuss their vision and ideas for public education. The first question we asked candidates was related to transformation in education. It read, Alberta is world-renowned as a top-performing jurisdiction in regards to public education. What do you think of the system today, and what are your priorities for change that would help ensure continued excellence? Our next question related to education funding. A number of grants for school boards were reduced or eliminated in the 2011 budget. As a result, hundreds of teachers across the province were laid off in June. Would a Liberal government under your leadership reverse grant cuts to school boards? And what principles will be used in the future to ensure stable, predictable, and sustained funding for schools? Finally, we asked candidates to discuss the future of the teaching profession. Our question said, the Alberta Teachers Association has been the professional voice of teachers for over 94 years. The ATA is a unified organization with both union and professional functions representing all teachers in Alberta's public, separate, and francophone schools. Do you support the continuation of the association in its current form? And what would your government do to further support the teaching profession in Alberta? Here now are the responses to our questions from leadership candidate Hugh MacDonald. Thank you for viewing.
My name is Hugh MacDonald. I'm the Alberta Liberal MLA from Edmonton Gold Bar, and I have been proud to serve our Alberta Liberal Party in the Legislative Assembly and the citizens of Edmonton Gold Bar since 1997. Well, certainly, and we should be proud of this, in this province, we have one of the finest public education systems, not only in the country, but in the world. If you look at the standards, the acceptable standards here, and the education that our children get, it is exceptional. And one of the reasons why we have such a fine public education system is the teachers that are standing every day in front of the classroom during the school year. And if we want to maintain that school system, we have to ensure that the Learning Commission, which was initiated in 2002 and the final report came out in 2003 by the provincial government, and that Learning Commission, that Blue Ribbon Commission, recognized that small class size matters. And where we have smaller class sizes, we have better results regardless of whether you're in urban or rural schools in this province. And that's where I see us having such an advantage, is a public school system where it is recognized that small class sizes and more teachers do matter. It does make the system better. We have some improvements to make for sure. We have to ensure that we have a stable, predictable source of funding for public school boards, not only that they can pay teachers, but also they can hire new young teachers, and they have enough left over so that they can maintain their school infrastructure. That's very, very important. And I find it frustrating from my point of view, representing central Edmonton neighborhood, that some schools are forced to close because of low enrollments. And we have to ensure, it's so important, because in the next 10 years we are having an additional 100,000 students enter the school system. 100,000 over the next 10 years. So I would really appreciate it if we put a moratorium on public school closures across the province. It's good for urban areas and also in rural areas. It's unreasonable to expect a young student in kindergarten or in grade 1 through 6 to be on a school bus one way for an hour or more from their farm home to the school. That's unreasonable, it's unacceptable, and I think that's where we can do a lot better. In order to have continued success as a multicultural province and a multicultural country, we're going to have to ensure that public education is funded, so that regardless of the income of the parents, all students will have an equal chance to succeed, and they will be successful if we fund public education adequately. Is it funded now? Unfortunately, no. And the funding for public education should not be reliant on the price of oil. We should have steady, predictable funding. Not only in the classroom, for instance, I would like to see for infrastructure, operations and maintenance, I think we should go back to a form of block funding, where there's a per capita amount for the student in operations and maintenance. And if that formula wouldn't work for some school boards, well, let's look at the value of the school, the asset, and then have that value reflected in a funding formula. So school boards, school trustees, democratically elected school trustees can make the important decisions of maintaining the school in a good condition so that teachers can teach and students can learn. But the public education funding model should not be tied to the price of oil. And we have demanded in the past and will continue to demand from this government as an opposition that we fund public education adequately. We can find $100 million additional dollars between the middle of August now and the first week in September so that school boards can plan along with their staff, their administration staff, to hire the teachers that are needed to meet the commitments again of the Learning Commission from 2002, which certainly indicated that smaller class sizes make a difference. The more teachers we have in the front of the classroom, the better the learning environment for the student. And I don't buy anyone's argument whenever they tell me we do not have enough money for public education, because it's an investment, it's not an expense. A school is a place where people go to learn. It's not like a widget factory that some people maintain it is. A school is so important, and so important to the future of this province. Whenever I was young, with no disrespect to some of the teachers that I had, in a rural school, they didn't have the qualifications that teachers are required now to have. And I think we got to recognize the importance of school teachers. It is perhaps one of the most important jobs in society to transmit the knowledge that we have collected over many generations. This information has been collected, and teachers have the job to transmit that knowledge to younger people so that they can understand what past generations have done and improve on it. So to sum it up, it's perhaps one of the most important jobs in all of society, the teaching profession, because you're responsible for transmitting the knowledge that we have collected over generations to the next generation. And that's why we have to recognize the teaching profession. We have to support it through professional development. The ATA certainly operates well. It's well organized, and it is needed. I have no problem whatsoever with teachers sitting down across a table from school boards or the government and negotiating a contract for a set period of time which both parties agree to. But sometimes it's convenient for some politicians to beat up on teachers, and I think it's wrong because of the vital responsibility that they have, and that's to transmit the knowledge that we have collected over generations, over centuries, and transmit it in the classroom to the next generation of citizens in our province. And I will always respect the role that teachers do in the classroom, and I will always respect their role as an elected official to the collective bargaining process. My late mother was a school teacher for quite a number of years, and I just think of her many times whenever I go into a classroom, particularly during reading week. After she retired, she worked with people who for one reason or another went through the school system and were now adults and could not read at all or could just read a little bit. And she spent her retirement years quietly teaching them to improve their reading skills. And every fall during reading week I get an opportunity to visit many different classrooms, and I always think of that. And that is yet another example of the difference that the teaching profession makes, not only in my community, but our city of Edmonton and throughout this province.